Hello, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. Today, I thought I would talk a bit about the power of a pause, the power of taking a pause. So to start us off, I'm going to read you roughly two lines. It's a famous quote that I don't think anyone really knows who said it. It's often attributed to Viktor Frankl, but whoever said it, it's a nice wee couple of lines that I think is really useful to think about. So here we go. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. So if you think of what that's saying, between something happening and us reacting to it, there is a gap there. It doesn't have to be an immediate thing. There's always a space. And if we use that space, if we take that space, then we are deciding what our response is. And if we don't take that space, then it's really not under our control and we're just reacting. We're not really reasoning things through and taking a moment to consider what we want our outcome to be. So if we think of this in terms of chronic pain, persistent pain, or our symptoms, we often have a kind of immediate reaction when we feel a symptom or sensation. So if, for example, you're troubled with back pain and you immediately notice some sort of sensation in your back, then that may well lead you immediately to start thinking, oh goodness, that's my back pain back again. How am I going to manage? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go to my work? How am I going to manage to get to all the things I need to do? Whatever it may be. So in that situation, we haven't taken the space to think about what we want our response to be. We've immediately gone down the rabbit hole of our unconscious mind running away with us and deciding what's going to happen there. So the stimulus there is the sensation in the back or whatever it may be for you. And by not taking the space, we've immediately jumped to a response that we haven't actually considered. In contrast, if we take the space, oh, I'm noticing that sensation in my back. I'm just going to take a breath or two here to give myself some space to think. Now, I know in the past my back has given me trouble. However, I also know that I can do X, Y, and Z, or it doesn't necessarily mean this is going to happen, or, oh, it's actually easing off a bit now, or whatever. We can choose our response, which will actually then give us some power over the outcome. And you can think of this in other sort of everyday situations as well. You know, if something happens and rather taking a moment, taking a breath to think about it, we immediately respond. So someone says something to us and we react straight away. Why have you not done it? Well, I didn't have time to do it. You know, we immediately maybe respond like that, depending on how we're feeling and the situation. Whereas again, if we maybe later on might look back in that situation, oh, I wish I'd taken a moment to think about what I was going to say there. I wish I'd taken a moment to just consider how to respond. We often do that in kind of retrospect. We think, oh, I wish I'd just done that. So what I'm kind of getting at is if we can build in that pause, that idea of that space into our lives, then it gives us a bit more control over how we react. And at the end of the day, that's all we can control. We can't control what happens. We can't control situations that always arise. We can't control these stimulus that are going to always arrive, because that is dependent on other people. It's dependent on the world that's going on around about us. And we can't ever control other people. All we can ever control is our response. And that wee short phrase is just saying, if we can just take that time, if we can just take that short space, then we're taking back a bit of the power. We're taking back a bit that we can control, which is how we respond. And as I said, that's all we actually can do. That's all we can control, is our response to things. But by controlling our response to things, by taking back that power and making a conscious choice of how we're going to respond to things, we can then influence the outcome that we have. And in relation to chronic pain and other persistent symptoms, by taking that pause, by taking back the power over our reactions, we can control the outcome and we can change how things then progress. So that rather than our mind then go down the rabbit hole of, oh, that's me, that's my back out again, that's me off my work for 6 weeks, that's me, I can't go out for dinner, I can't do all the things I want to do, that's everything, I just need to write it off again, rather than immediately reverting to that without actually taking a second or two just to think and pause and rationalize things out a wee bit, we can change how that process then carries on. You know, without taking the pause, but away down, everything's a disaster. Taking a moment or two doesn't necessarily mean your back pain's going to go away straight away, but by just taking that moment and noticing your thoughts and deciding how you want to react can change how the course of things then proceed. Your brain's not then run away with you, they're not going down the rabbit hole of everything's a disaster. You can take the moment and say, right, okay, well, yeah, I'm noticing that pain, I'm noticing that sensation, but it will pass. I know it doesn't mean everything's wrong. It doesn't mean there's anything all that seriously wrong. It doesn't mean I can't do things. All it means is right now in this moment, I'm noticing that sensation, and that's okay. And then you've not going to be down there. You've not increased your stress levels. You've not got your nervous system into a state of high alert, which in turn is going to actually increase your symptoms. You've taken back the power a wee bit. And ultimately, that's what we want, isn't it? We want the power over our symptoms. We want the power. We want to be in control rather than them controlling us. So see how you can fit in that wee space, that pause. And I say it's useful across the board. So rather than reacting when somebody cuts you up when you're driving, or your child hasn't put away the thing they were supposed to do, or your partner hasn't tidied up when they were supposed to, or didn't pick up the things in the mirror, rather than just reacting, see if you can just take that moment. So literally taking a breath. Okay, what are we doing? And maybe you're still angry and you still shout, and that's okay. But at least then you've taken that wee pause and you've maybe given it a chance to have a different outcome. And maybe that's the appropriate outcome. Getting your anger out is sometimes the appropriate outcome, and that's okay. But then it's more of a choice. And that's the difference. It's about taking back that power. So what you do is your choice, and it's not just something that happens as a reaction without you having any sort of say in what's going on. And as I say, ultimately, that's what we want, isn't it? We want to have control over things rather than being controlled by things. Okay, so I'll leave you at that for today. See how that works for you. If you can fit in a wee pause throughout the day, I'm going to try and do it over the next few while as well, a bit more. I think it's something that kind of comes and goes when we're in a hurry and we're rushed and our stress levels are already a bit higher. It's much more difficult when everything's a bit more chilled. It's easier, of course, like everything. So it's time to use it, trying to be aware of that throughout your day, so that at times of high stress, it's a more natural thing to implement. So try and take the pause, take the space, and all you have to do in that moment is take a breath, or count to 10, or whatever it is that works for you, and see how it changes things for you. See if it just makes you take back a wee bit more power over the outcomes that you end up with. Okay, I'll leave you at that for now, and I'll see you again soon.